Runnin' with the Devil, a rock and roll adventure. Part 22. Tomorrow, we all said in unison, including Tony. Yes boys. Tomorrow, Bob reiterated, we really must be going. I was excited. Corey and Steven high-fived each other, Ricky threw up the horns, and Tony was smiling. Derek just stood there. He had a weird look on his face, a look of doubt. He was nervous. Dude, are you alright? Steven asked. Yeah, man. You don't look so good, Ricky said. Derek slowly lowered his head, and softly said, I'm not ready. That was the first time I ever saw Derek doubting himself. But I guess even the most confident person has a moment of weakness. Yes, you are, dude, I said assuringly, turning to face him. Yeah, man. You got this, Corey said, side-hugging Derek. Dude. We just rocked out all 15 songs that we recorded in Bob's studio perfectly, on the first take, without any sheet music. You were excited then, what happened? I can't bust this shell wide open without you. The first time I jammed with you guys, I was nervous as fuck, dude. But, you took it upon yourself to help me bust this shell. I want you, Derek, to be as confident, from this day forward, as you were that day. Did you catch what I did there? Pretty slick, huh? Anyway, Derek's head lifted quickly, now with a look of excitement on his face. Yeah, baby. Rock and roll, he said, throwing up the horns on both hands, and headbanging with his tongue sticking out. We all did the same. Tony too. Boys. Now that you've had your little hallmark moment, I really must insist that we get going, Bob said. After a few seconds, Bob yelled in his most evil devil voice, now. We all stopped headbanging, trying quickly to catch our bearings, as anyone who has ever headbanged that intensely knows, you're a little loopy afterwards. Anyway, we all began knocking into one another, but quickly got our heads straight, and followed Bob through the portal in the closet door. When we were completely out of the house, Bob snapped his fingers, and we heard the portal close. I turned around to look at the house, one last time. What the fuck? I said loudly, hey, guys. You're not gonna believe this shit. Turn around. They did. No way. You're shitting me. Oh my god. What the fuck? Dang, they all said. We just stood there, in the side yard, in complete awe of what we saw. The beautiful Wilhelm estate that we had just spent the last 4 months in, and had seen numerous times in our lives, was not beautiful at all. No. It was old, raggedy, and appeared to have been set ablaze at some point. Broken windows, charred wood, and peeling paint was what stood before us. Bob, I said, turning around to see him go around the side of the bus. But it wasn't the same bus that Ricky's pops had given us, or the same bus that we saw when we first looked through the portal. Well, it might have been the same bus, just painted differently now. It was now jet black, with blackened image painted on both sides, in yellow, orange, and red, just like a flame. A big red hand throwing up the horns was painted on the hood. All the back windows were tinted to match the color of the bus. The words, "To hell with the devil," were written under the windows in the back. I'm not sure if that was a jab at the Christian heavy metal band Stryper or not. I never had the chance to ask Bob. I actually like Stryper. Michael Sweet was one of the best screamers in metal, just my opinion. Anyway, we don't got to worry about getting it repainted now, I thought. We all just stood there smiling. After a few minutes, the shock was over. Bob, I said louder. He poked his head out, smiling. Yes, he responded. What's up with the house, Bob? I asked. I told you boys, the house was not what it seemed, Bob said. His head then disappeared back around the side of the bus. We all then raced over to it. We turned the corner to see Bob by the folding doors that led into the bus. How is that possible, Bob? I asked as nicely as I could, though I was more pissed now than I was before. I will explain it all once we get inside, boys. Bob said smiling, we really must be going. The folding doors then opened quickly, startling all of us, except for Bob. We turned to look inside the bus, and there, in the driver's seat, sat a familiar face, someone we had not seen in quite some time. The old man. You know, the soul seeker, Bob's right-hand man. Such a pleasure to see you all again. All aboard, ha 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 ha, he said, then began bouncing up and down rhythmically like he was listening to Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. He said, still bouncing. Hearing him say that, brought me back to the time my old friend Ricky first played that song all those years ago. Anyway, we all just looked at him funny. Bob then cleared his throat loudly. The seeker stopped bouncing, composed himself, turned to us and said smiling, I always wanted to say that. Haven't you? We all just shook our heads, as we got on the bus. Tony went first, and Bob was the last to enter. Now, come to find out, the soul seeker really wasn't a bad guy after all. He just took his job way too seriously. Anyway, Tony saw his accordion sitting on the seat, and said to us, "Dang it. I forgot about that. Maybe I can join you in a jam session sometime? If I remember." "Sure thing, dude, absolutely, yup, bitchin', great idea, Tony," we all responded. It didn't take long for us to realize that Bob had equipped the bus with all the incentives that we had in the limousine, except for the hard stuff. The only difference was now there were 2 small refrigerators, instead of 1. The seats and the tables were painted black, with the Hellfire Records logo on them. Bags of weed, rolling papers, and a lighter sat on the table, along with 3 cartons of Marlboro cigarettes. "Yeah, dude. Let's get toasted," Corey said to Derek. "Fucking A, dude. I need a hit," Derek said, as they both sat down, grabbed the weed, as well as some rolling papers, and began rolling a joint. "Help yourselves, boys," Bob announced, waving his hand in a presenting fashion. Ricky grabbed the cigarettes, and once again began chain smoking. Steven ran to the fridge and opened it. The top shelf of the first fridge was loaded with ice-cold beers just like Bob had said. The bottom shelf was filled with 12-ounce bottles of what Bob described as hell water, which he said was completely harmless to drink. I wasn't too sure about that, but if I wanted coffee, I knew I would have to use it. "Anyway, dude, you want a beer?" Steven asked Ricky. "Hell, yeah," was his reply. Steven grabbed 2 beers, sat next to Ricky, across from Derek and Corey, handed Ricky his beer, and took a cigarette from the pack. They both opened their beers, and Steven lit his cigarette. Now, just like last time, there was a coffee pot, with coffee, filters, 2 stacks of little black styrofoam cups with the Hellfire Records logo on them, containers of powdered creamer and sugar, as well as spoons with the same markings as the cups, were sitting across the tops of both refrigerators, instead of only one. Finally, "Thanks Bob," I said, as I went to make a pot of coffee. Tony just stood there. "Go ahead, big man. Enjoy," Bob said. "I don't do drugs. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't drink alcohol, and I only drank coffee because Stacy made me. I don't like the taste of that stuff, devil guy." "I know, big man. I got something that you will really like, right in that refrigerator over there," pointing to the other fridge. "Have a look." Tony walked over to the fridge, opened it to discover it was fully loaded with submarine sandwiches. Turkey subs, ham and cheese subs, Italian subs, every kind of sub you could imagine. "Are they to your liking, big man?" Bob asked Tony. "Oh, yes sir. Thank you, devil guy," Tony answered, reaching into the fridge, and grabbing one out. "They were all prepared by the fine people in Hell's Kitchen," Bob said. Tony then sat at the table, next to Ricky, and ate what looked like a tuna sub. When the coffee was done, I made a cup, sat down next to Tony, and drank it. Bob just stood in the doorway, between the front and the back of the bus, watching us eat, drink, and smoke. "And away we go," Bob said, as the old man started the bus, and put it in drive. He reached up above the driver's window, and turned on the radio. Loud 80s metal music came blaring through the speakers. We all began rocking out, as Iron Maiden's Run to the Hills started playing, including the old man, who knew every word to the song. Bob just stood there. We rolled down the driveway, made a left, and headed to the airport. Everyone was having a good time, except me. Now, don't get me wrong, the coffee was good, and the music was awesome, but it still bothered me about the house. "Hey Bob, you said you would explain everything about the house when we got on the bus. So, what's up with the house?" I asked. "I can't hear you," Bob said loudly. He then turned to the old man, and yelled, "Turn it down." "Now what did you say?" he asked. I repeated my question. "Yeah, what's up?" Corey asked, and then laughed, obviously completely toasted. Derek said, laughing as well. "Well, the truth is, boys, I lied." Bob said. "You think?" I replied. "I am the devil. Sue me," Bob said, laughing. "Seriously boys, I did not purchase the house recently like I said. I actually purchased it many, many years ago. You see, there were actually deaths by hanging, murder, and other forms of suicide that happened in the house. It is also true that the original owners dabbled in the art of devil worship and black magic. Like I said, I do not recall such things. Now, apparently the townspeople began to believe that the house was evil, after the descendants of the original owners disappeared. They gathered around the house one night, and set it on fire, burning it almost completely to the ground. I purchased it shortly after. I put a spell on the property, to make the house, and the grounds appear as they did when it was originally built. It only appeared to you now, in its true form, because I removed the spell, Bob explained. I just stared at him. "Hey, Bob, I got a question too, Ricky said, slightly slurring his words, as he was obviously drunk. Ask away, my dear boy, Bob said. You told us in the house that you watched us trying to find a way out, right? Ricky asked. Yes, Bob answered. Then why did you ask what I was wearing, if you already knew? He asked. Well, my dear boy, I saw that there were many pairs of sweatpants in that drawer. I assumed you would grab a normal pair. I received the call about your album's achievements at that very moment. I turned away to take the call, got the news, created the portal, and entered the house. I had no idea that the ones you chose had hearts and little rainbows on them. It was quite a shock, he said. Oh, said Ricky. Don't worry, boys. We'll get you all new clothing before your opening show, Bob said. Steven grabbed 2 more beers for him and Ricky. I made another cup of coffee. Corey and Derek rolled more joints. And Tony ate another sub. Boss, we're here, the old man said. Okay, boys. Time to ride the skies, Bob said. I finished my coffee, Tony finished his 3rd sub, and we both stood up, ready to go. Boys, did you hear what I said? Let's go, Bob bellowed to the rest of the guys. Derek, Corey, Ricky, and Steven stumbled out of their seats and stood there wobbling. The old man then opened the door. Bob went first. Tony and I followed, while the rest of the guys fumbled their way down the steps. We were standing outside of a huge hangar. Hangar 18 to be exact. I only remember the number because Megadeth had a song called Hangar 18 a few years later. The old man got off the bus, ran to the door of the hangar, and went inside. Soon after, the 2 large hangar doors began to open. Now, close your eyes, boys, Bob said. We did as we were told. After a minute or so, Bob said, okay, boys, open your eyes. Ta-da! We all opened our eyes to see a massive commercial-size airplane standing before us. It too was painted black, with the band name painted on both sides, in the same colors. The same hand throwing the horns was painted on both sides of the tail fin. Well, boys, is this to your liking? Bob said. None of us could answer. We were completely speechless, staring at the plane. Boys, snap out of it, Bob said, snapping his fingers repeatedly in each one of our faces. Time is money, boys. Let's get aboard, shall we? The old man then began pushing what I can only describe as a huge flight of rolling stairs up to the door of the plane. He has got to be stronger than he looks, I thought. Those stairs look heavy. But then I thought, he's a demon, so it makes sense. Anyway, just as the stairs were about to reach the door flung open from the inside. Standing there was another familiar face, someone we also hadn't seen in a while. It was none other than that nasal talking, pocket protector having, left arm losing, demonic record producer, and keyboardist of ours, Edgar.